The last time my daughter spoke to me, she said I had no heart. That I was just a uniform walking around pretending to be a father. When the solicitor finished reading the will, $25 million had been left to a name I had never heard. I was already reaching for the door handle when he looked at me over his glasses and said quietly, "Mr. Telford, I need to ask you something. Who was your mother? I am glad you are here. Follow my story to the end, and drop a comment telling me where you are watching from so I can see how far this has reached. My name is Murray. I am 63 years old. I live alone in a small flat in Geelong, about an hour southwest of Melbourne. 2 bedrooms, but one of them has been empty for years. I turned it into a storage room for things nobody wants. Boxes of old uniforms, medals and velvet cases, photo albums no one will ever open. The kitchen is narrow. The fridge hums all night. That is the only voice in this flat most days. I served 24 years in the Australian Army. Infantry first, then Special Operations. 2 tours in East Timor. 3 in Afghanistan. I did things I cannot talk about and saw things I will never forget. When I came home for good, I thought I had earned some peace. Instead, I got silence. My son, Ethan, stopped calling 5 years ago. He said I treated him like a recruit, not a child. That every conversation was an inspection. My daughter, Kylie, she lasted a bit longer. She tried. But one Christmas she asked me to say something kind, just one thing, and I told her emotions were a luxury we could not afford. She put down her fork, looked at me with those eyes that are so much like her mother's, and walked out. She has not come back. My youngest, Joel, he blocked my number after I missed his wedding. I was leading a training exercise in Queensland. I told myself the army needed me. The truth is, the army was easier than facing my own son on the happiest day of his life. I did not know how to stand there and feel something without falling apart. Their mother, Sandra, died 11 years ago. Cancer. She fought it the way she fought everything, quietly and with more courage than I ever had. After she was gone, the kids drifted. Without her holding us together, there was nothing left to hold. I wake every morning at 6. Make my bed tight enough to bounce a coin. Black coffee, no sugar. 40 push-ups, though my left shoulder screams now. Then I walk. Same route every day. Down Moorabool Street, past the old wool stores, along the waterfront. I walk because if I stop moving, I will have to sit with what I have become. A man with a chest full of medals and an empty house. It was a Tuesday in March when I saw him. I was at the Coles on Malop Street, same time I always go, 8:30 before the crowds. I was in the tin soup aisle when I noticed an old man standing near the shelves, holding a tin of tomato soup like he had forgotten what it was. His hands were trembling. His shirt was buttoned wrong, one side higher than the other. His trousers were clean but creased in the wrong places, like he had slept in them. He looked confused. Lost. And he was alone. I know that look. I have seen it on men who survived things no one should survive, only to be destroyed by peace. I walked closer. "Excuse me, mate," I said gently. "You right?" He turned slowly. His eyes were pale blue, clouded. He looked at me for a long time, like he was trying to place my face in a memory that would not cooperate. "I do not know," he said. His voice was thin, but there was something underneath it. Authority. The ghost of command. I cannot remember how I got here. My chest tightened. I looked at his wrist. No medical bracelet. No phone. No wallet visible. Just an old man standing in a supermarket with no idea where he was. "What is your name?" I asked. He straightened slightly. "Old instinct." "Brigadier Cedric Wainwright," he said. "Retired. Or at least I think I am." I stared at him. I knew that name. Every soldier who served in the Australian Army knew that name. Brigadier Wainwright had commanded operations in Vietnam, in Borneo, had been decorated more times than most men had been promoted. He was a living legend, or he had been. I had seen his photograph hanging in the officers' mess at Puckapunyal when I was a young private. He had been tall then, sharp-jawed, the kind of officer who made you stand straighter just by walking past. The man in front of me was a shadow of that photograph. "Sir," I said, "do you have anyone I can call? Family?" He let out a sound that was almost a laugh. Bitter. Hollow. "Family," he repeated. "My daughter put me in a home in Ballarat. Took my car. Took my house. Said it was for my own good. I walked out this morning. Caught a bus. No one stopped me. No one noticed. We stood there in the soup aisle, two old soldiers, one who had commanded thousands and one who could not command his own children to pick up the phone. 'Let me drive you somewhere,' I said. 'Wherever you need to go.' He looked at me with an expression I will carry for the rest of my life. Gratitude. Raw, unguarded, the kind that only comes when a person has been alone so long they have forgotten what kindness feels like. 'Why would you help me?' he asked. 'You do not know me.' 'I do know you, sir,' I said. 'I know exactly what it is like to have no one to call.' I drove him to my flat. He did not ask where we were going. Just sat in the passenger seat watching Geelong slide past the window like it was a foreign country. Inside, he looked around. The bare walls, the single armchair, the folding table. 'You live here alone?' he asked. 'Yes, sir.' He lowered himself into the armchair like his bones were made of glass. 'Me too,' he said. 'Before they took me, I made tea. Strong, the way soldiers drink it.' We sat across from each other, and for the first time in 5 years, the silence in my flat did not feel like punishment. He told me about his daughter, Philippa. She had taken power of attorney 3 years ago when his memory started failing. Sold his house in Toorak, one of Melbourne's finest suburbs. Sold his medals, his uniforms, everything he had earned in 40 years of service. Moved him into a facility in Ballarat where no one knew his name and no one cared. She visits once a month, he said, stirring his tea slowly. Stays for 20 minutes. Checks on the finances. Leaves. I felt anger rise in my throat. Not just for him. For both of us. For every man who gave everything and got nothing back. 'What about you?' he asked. 'Why are you alone?' So I told him. Told him about Sandra. About Ethan and his inspections comment. About Kylie walking out at Christmas. About Joel's wedding I missed. About the push-ups and the walks and the humming fridge and the silence that eats you alive when there is no one left to talk to. The brigadier listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that cracked me open. 'You sound exactly like me, 40 years ago.' That night, I set up the spare bedroom for him. Cleared out the boxes, found clean sheets, made the bed properly. He stood in the doorway watching me. 'Murray,' he said. 'I do not understand why you are doing this. But thank you.' I did not know what to say. So I just nodded, turned off the light, and went to my room. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of someone else breathing in my flat, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Purpose. Days became weeks. I built a routine for both of us. Up at 6:30. Tea together. Breakfast, eggs on toast, nothing fancy. Then I would sort his medications. He had 9 different pills and could never remember which ones to take. Some mornings he knew exactly who I was. Other mornings he called me names I did not recognize, names from decades ago, soldiers he had served with, men who were probably dead. I took him to the veterans clinic at the Geelong hospital. The doctor, a young bloke named Dr. Anand, ran tests. When he came back, his face told me everything before he opened his mouth. Early stage dementia, he said. It is progressing. He needs consistent supervision. He should not be living alone, and he certainly should not be wandering off from care facilities. He paused. Are you a relative? No, I said. Just a mate. Dr. Anand studied me. Well, he is lucky to have you. Most people in his situation end up in places where no one gives a damn. He handed me prescriptions and instructions. I drove the Brigadier home in silence. When we got back to the flat, he turned to me. I heard what he said, Murray. I am losing my mind. I could not lie to him. You are not alone, I said. I will look after you. He smiled. Sad. Tired. You remind me of someone, he said. Someone I should have known better. I did not understand what he meant. Not then. The weeks went on. I cooked for him, cleaned for him, helped him shower when his hands would not cooperate. It felt strange at first. I had spent my whole life being the hard man. The one who did not do soft things. But caring for the Brigadier, it was different. It felt like the most important mission I had ever been given. One afternoon, we sat in the living room. He was looking through a small leather photo album he had kept hidden in his bag. Pictures of him in uniform, standing beside armored vehicles, shaking hands with governors general. He traced his finger over one photograph. A young man in dress uniform standing beside a woman with dark hair and a wide smile. That is Joan, he said softly. She was the only woman I ever truly loved. I leaned forward. What happened? He closed the album carefully. I was posted to Townsville in 1962. Training for Vietnam. She worked at the base canteen. We had 3 months together. The best 3 months of my life. His voice cracked. Then I shipped out. When I came back 18 months later, she was gone. Moved south somewhere. I looked for her. Years later, I hired people to search. But I never found her. He looked at me. His eyes were wet. I married someone else. Had Philippa. But it was never the same. Joan was the one. And I lost her. I sat back, feeling the weight of his regret. It was my weight too. The weight of lost chances, of people I had pushed away because I was too proud, too hard, too bloody stubborn to say I was sorry. Murray, he said after a long silence, do you ever think about your children? Every single day, I said. He nodded slowly. We are the same, you and I. We thought the mission was everything. We thought being tough meant being alone. He looked at me, and for a moment the fog of his dementia lifted completely. But we were wrong. Something inside me broke. A wall I had spent decades building. And for the first time since Sander died, I felt tears behind my eyes. I did not let them fall. Old habits. But the Brigadier saw. He reached across and put his hand on my arm. It is all right to feel, son. It does not make you weak. Son. He called me son. And in that moment, I knew this man understood me better than anyone in my family ever had. 2 days later, the Brigadier collapsed in the bathroom. I called 000. Rode with him in the ambulance to University Hospital Geelong. They stabilized him. The cardiac specialist said his heart was failing. He needed surgery, a valve replacement. Without it, he had maybe 4 months. I rang Philippa. She answered on the 6th ring. What now? She said. I told her about her father, the surgery, how serious it was. Silence. Then a sigh. Not grief. Irritation. I will come down tomorrow, she said. She showed up 3 days later. Walked into the hospital room like she was attending a meeting she had not asked for. She did not touch her father. Did not ask how he felt. She just looked at me. Who are you? I am the one who has been looking after him, I said. She narrowed her eyes. Why? Because someone had to. Philippa turned to the Brigadier. Dad, you cannot just wander off. You need proper care. Professional care. The brigadier looked at her with more clarity than I had seen in weeks. You mean you need my money to stay where it is? Her face went tight. That is not fair. Fair? His voice was steel. You sold my medals, Philippa. You sold the military cross your grandfather earned at Tobruk. You put me in that place and forgot I existed. Do not talk to me about fair. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Looked at me like I was the cause of everything wrong in her life. Then she turned and walked out without another word. The brigadier reached for my hand. Stay with me, Murray. Please. I am not going anywhere, I said. The surgery was scheduled for the following Friday. The night before, the brigadier asked me to ring his solicitor. A man named Harold Prescott drove down from Melbourne that evening, briefcase in hand. The brigadier asked me to wait outside while they spoke. I sat in the corridor, uneasy. When Prescott came out, he nodded at me but said nothing. The brigadier called me back in. He looked exhausted but alert. Murray, I need you to know something, he said. You have been more of a son to me in these months than anyone has been in my entire life. Sir, you do not have to. Yes, I do. He squeezed my hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know you matter. You are not alone, and neither am I. The surgery went as planned. They said it was successful. The brigadier woke briefly, looked at me, squeezed my hand. Then he slept away. The doctor said his body was simply too worn out. Too many years. Too many wars. Brigadier Cedric Wainwright died on a Thursday afternoon in July. I was holding his hand when he stopped breathing. And for the first time since I was a boy, I wept. I did not just lose a friend. I lost the only person who had made me feel like I was worth something. But I did not know it yet. The brigadier had one more thing to tell me. The funeral was held at a church in Geelong. The army sent a catafalque party. They folded the flag with precision and handed it to Philippa. She took it the way you take a receipt at the shops. Without feeling. I stood at the back. I was not family. I had no right to sit up front. But I needed to be there. Philippa gave a eulogy. Talked about her father's sacrifice, his dedication, his service to the nation. She did not mention the nursing home. Did not mention that he had died with only a stranger beside him. After the service, people came up to Philippa. Distant relatives. Old army mates. People who wanted to be seen. No one spoke to me. I was invisible. I was heading for the door when Harold Prescott appeared at my side. Mr. Telford, he said, I need you to stay. The brigadier requested your presence for the reading of the will. I am not family, I said. Please. It is important. I followed him to a private room. Philippa was already seated, legs crossed, back straight. She looked at me when I entered. What is he doing here? She asked. Prescott did not answer. He opened his briefcase and began reading. The formalities first. Then the substance. To my daughter, Philippa Wainwright Kessler, I leave the sum of $80,000 and my personal effects, excluding all military decorations and memorabilia. Philippa's face drained of color. 80,000? That is all? Prescott continued. The remainder of my estate, including all financial assets, property holdings, and investments, valued at approximately $25 million, I leave to Kenneth James Wainwright, grandson, previously unknown. The room went silent. I blinked. $25 million to a grandson nobody had ever mentioned. Philippa stood up, shaking. What grandson? Dad was an only child. This is a fraud. She pointed at me, he manipulated my father. He got into his head while he was sick. I felt my jaw tighten. I did not know about any of this. Prescott closed the folder calmly. If you wish to contest, that is your right. But I should inform you that the Brigadier anticipated this response. He left comprehensive documentation, including independent medical assessments confirming his mental capacity at the time of signing, and statutory declarations from witnesses. Philippa grabbed her handbag and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. I stood there, numb. 25 million to a grandson I had never heard of. I felt used. Like I had been part of something I did not understand. I turned to leave. Mr. Telford. Prescott's voice stopped me. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. I turned back. Who was your mother? I stared at him. What kind of question is that? Please, he said. It is relevant. I shook my head. Her name was Joan. Joan Telford. She raised me on her own in Warrnambool. She died when I was 40. Why does it matter? Prescott reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope. The Brigadier left this for you. He said you would need to read it alone. I took it. My hands were shaking. What is this? The truth, Prescott said quietly. Then he added, Mr. Telford, you might want to sit down. I did not sit. I tore open the envelope right there. Inside was a handwritten letter. The Brigadier's writing, shaky but clear. Murray, it began. If you are reading this, I am gone, and you are probably confused. Maybe angry. Maybe feeling like I lied to you. I understand. But please read this to the end. I kept reading. There is something I never told you. Something I discovered 4 years ago when I hired a private investigator to find someone from my past. A woman named Joan. Your mother. My breath stopped. In 1962, I was stationed at Laverack Barracks in Townsville. I met a young woman who worked in the canteen. Her name was Joan Baxter. We were together for 3 months before my deployment. I was engaged to someone else. I was young and reckless. When my orders came, I left. I never knew she was pregnant. I never knew about you. I had to stop. Had to breathe. Decades later, when I finally found records of Joan, she had passed away. But I found your birth certificate. Murray James Telford, born 14th of August, 1963, at Warrnambool Base Hospital. Mother Joan Baxter Telford. Father unknown. My knees buckled. I grabbed the table. You are my son, Murray. I am your father. The room tilted. I read the words again. And again. I watched you from a distance for 2 years. I learned about your service, your family, your divorce from your children's lives. And when I saw you in that supermarket, I knew who you were. I had been going to that Coles every Tuesday and Thursday for months, hoping I would find you. I lived in Geelong for a year before you found me. But my memory was already slipping. Some days I forgot why I was there. The morning you spoke to me in the soup aisle, I had a clear moment. I knew it was you. Tears were running down my face. I could not stop them. But I was a coward. I did not tell you because I was terrified you would reject me. That you would see me as just another person who abandoned you. So I stayed quiet. And instead, I just tried to be near you. To know you. To let you know me. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper. Kenneth James Wainwright is you, Murray. I registered the inheritance under the name you would have carried if I had done the right thing in 1962. Kenneth was my father's name. James was the name Joan told the hospital she wanted for you, before she changed it to Murray. I collapsed into the chair. Forgive me for not telling you. Forgive me for the years I was not there. But know this. In these last months, you were not just my caretaker. You were my son. And I was, for the first time in my life, a father. The letter ended with his signature. Cedric Wainwright. And beneath it, one more word. Dad. I sat in that room for I do not know how long. An hour. Maybe 2. Holding the letter, reading it over and over, trying to understand how the universe had put me in that supermarket aisle, how I had found my father without knowing it, and how I had lost him before I could call him Dad. Prescott came back eventually. He sat down across from me. "There are DNA results in the envelope as well," he said gently. "Taken from a blood sample during one of his hospital visits, matched against a hair sample he collected from your flat. Everything is documented. Everything is legal. Why did he not tell me?" My voice was barely a whisper. "He was afraid," Prescott said. "Afraid you would think he was just using you. Afraid you would walk away. He said the time you had together was worth more than any confession." I wiped my face with my sleeve. The old soldier in me was ashamed. The son in me did not care. Prescott stood. "Take your time, Mr. Telford. Or should I say, Mr. Wainwright. When you are ready, we will handle the estate." He left me alone. I sat there staring at the letter, and all those moments came flooding back. Every time the Brigadier had called me son. Every time he had said, "You remind me of someone." Every time he had looked at me with that expression I could not name. He had known. He had known the whole time. And I had called him sir. Kept my distance. Treated him like a duty, not a father. Because I did not know any other way. Philippa contested the will. Of course she did. Her lawyers filed in the Supreme Court of Victoria, claiming undue influence and mental incapacity. It dragged on for 9 months. She hired the most expensive barristers in Melbourne. She tried to prove the Brigadier was not competent. Tried to prove I had manipulated him. Tried to argue the DNA was fabricated. But Prescott had prepared for all of it. The medical assessments were airtight. 3 independent specialists had evaluated the Brigadier in the months before his death. The DNA testing had been done by 2 separate accredited laboratories. And that letter was read aloud in court. Every word. The judge dismissed Philippa's claim entirely. Ordered her to pay costs. She did not look at me when she left the courtroom. Just walked out with her lawyers, her face rigid with fury. I did not feel victorious. I just felt tired. And I felt the weight of what my father had wanted me to do with this money. There was a second letter, kept in a safety deposit box at the ANZ in Collins Street, Melbourne. Prescott took me there the week after the ruling. Inside the box was another envelope, a small wooden case, and a folder of documents. I opened the letter first. "Murray. If you have come this far, you know the truth. You know you are my son, and you are probably wondering what to do next. I want you to listen carefully." I read on. "I did not give you this money to ease my guilt. I gave it to you because of who you are. A man who stopped for a stranger in a supermarket. A man who cooked meals and sorted pills and sat with an old fool when no one else would. You did not do it for reward. You did it because it is who you are." My throat tightened. "But I need you to do something with it. I need you to help people like us. Veterans who gave everything and were forgotten. Families torn apart by silence and stubbornness and the ridiculous belief that being strong means being alone. Build something, Murray. Build something that matters." I opened the wooden case. Inside was a medal. The Brigadier's Distinguished Service Cross. And beneath it, a small card with his handwriting. "For my son. So you never forget that you were brave long before you knew where that bravery came from." I closed the case. My hands were shaking. The folder contained detailed plans. A foundation structure. Governance notes. A list of potential partners, RSL branches, veterans organizations, counseling services. He had spent months planning this. Every detail mapped out. He had left me a roadmap. I drove to the Geelong cemetery that afternoon. Stood in front of his grave. The headstone was plain. Name, rank, dates. Nothing more. I knelt on the grass. I found you, Dad, I said quietly. I found you and I lost you and I found you again. And I am going to make this count. I am going to make sure other blokes do not have to feel the way we did. The wind came off Corio Bay, cold and clean. I stayed there until the light faded. I poured everything into the foundation. Called it the Wainwright Trust. Hired a small team. Set up counseling programs for veterans and their families. Created support groups. Built a network of mediators who specialized in family reconciliation. We partnered with RSL branches across Victoria, then expanded into New South Wales and Queensland. The first year, we helped 31 families. Some reconciled. Some did not. But every person who walked through our doors left knowing they were not alone. I started attending the support groups myself. Not as a leader. Just as a man in the circle. I sat with other veterans who had lost their families, who had chosen duty over love, who carried the same regrets I carried. And I told them my story. About the Brigadier. About finding my father and losing him. About my children. About the mistakes I had made. One night, a bloke named Terry stood up. Mid-50s. Former sapper. Divorced. 2 daughters who would not speak to him. He looked at me and said, I spent my whole life thinking I was doing the right thing. Being tough. Being reliable. But I was just hiding. Hiding from the things that scared me most. Love. Feeling. Needing someone. I nodded. I knew exactly what he meant. We are all hiding, I said. But maybe it is time to stop. The room was quiet. Then someone else spoke. Then another. And we sat there, a room full of broken men, finally admitting that we needed help. That we needed each other. It was the first time in my life I felt I was exactly where I was supposed to be. My children came back slowly. Not all at once. Not easily. But they came. Kylie was first. She sent a text, 2 months after the court ruling. Dad. Can we talk? 3 words. I stared at them for 10 minutes. Then I typed back, anytime, love. We met at a cafe in Torquay. Neutral ground. She ordered a flat white. I ordered long black. We sat by the window and she told me what the last 5 years had been like for her. The anger. The grief. The feeling of growing up with a father who was physically present but emotionally absent. I did not defend myself. I just listened. And when she was done, I said the only thing I could say. You are right. About all of it. And I am sorry. She cried. I cried. 2 people sitting in a cafe in Torquay, crying over a flat white and a long black, and I did not care who saw. Before she left, she hugged me. Brief. Awkward. But real. Come to dinner next month, she said. Meet Aiden. He is my partner. You would like him. I would love that. I used part of the inheritance to pay off Kylie's mortgage. Had Prescott set it up anonymously. She rang me a week later, confused and grateful. I just said I was happy for her. Did not tell her the truth. Did not need to. Joel was next. He agreed to meet at a pub in Colac. We sat in a corner booth. He ordered a Parma. I ordered a pot of Carlton. Why now? He asked. Why are you suddenly trying? Because I finally understand what I lost, I said. And I do not want to die without trying to get some of it back. He chewed his food in silence. Then he looked at me. I am not ready to forgive you. Especially the wedding. That one still burns. I know. But I am willing to listen. If you keep showing up. I will keep showing up, I said. Every time. We started meeting once a month. Just lunch. Same pub. He ordered a parma every time. I ordered coffee. Some days we talked about the past. Some days we talked about the footy. Some days we barely talked at all. But he was there. And I was there. And that was enough. Ethan was the hardest. He did not respond to my calls, my texts, my letters. I wrote to him once a month. Handwritten, the way the Brigadier had written to me. I told him about the foundation. About the families we were helping. About what I was learning in therapy, because yes, I started seeing a psychologist. A bloke named Dr. Singh at the Veterans Clinic. First time in 63 years I sat in a room and admitted I was not all right. I told Ethan everything. I did not ask for anything. I just let him know I was there. 8 months of silence. Then one morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Dad. Ethan's voice. Careful. Guarded. Ethan. My heart was hammering. I am here. A long pause. I read your letters. All of them. Thank you, I said. That is all I needed to hear. Another silence. Maybe we can talk sometime. Not now. But sometime. Whenever you are ready, I will be here. He hung up. But it was enough. More than enough. 3 months later, Ethan drove down from Bendigo and visited the foundation. I showed him around. The counseling rooms, the group session space, the wall of photographs, families who had found their way back. He did not say much. Just looked. When we sat down in my office, he said, "This is good, Dad. What you are building here. It is really good." "I am trying," I said. He studied me for a long time. I can see that. He stood and extended his hand. I shook it. Then he pulled me into a hug. Quick. Awkward. But it was real, and it was his choice, and that made it mean everything. Kylie invited me to her wedding. She and Aiden had decided to make it official. Small ceremony in a garden in Lorne overlooking the ocean. When she called to invite me, I nearly dropped the phone. "You want me there?" I asked. "Of course I do. You are my dad." Those words. You are my dad. I had waited 5 years to hear them. The wedding was beautiful. String lights in the trees, wildflowers on the tables, the sound of the ocean below. I sat in the second row. Had not earned the front yet. But I was there. When Kylie walked down the aisle, she looked at me as she passed. Really looked at me. And she smiled. I smiled back. Tears pouring down my face. I did not care. At the reception, she asked me to dance. We stood on the small wooden dance floor, swaying to a song I did not know. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then she rested her head on my shoulder. "Thank you for being here, Dad." "Thank you for letting me," I said. She pulled back and looked at me. "I am still hurt. It is going to take time." "I know. And I will wait as long as you need." She nodded. "I know you will." 2 years after the Brigadier's death, I stood in front of the Wainwright Trust building. It was a converted warehouse near the Geelong waterfront, nothing flash, just solid. Good bones. A sign out front with the Brigadier's name. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs. Veterans and their families. Reunion pictures. Letters of thanks. And in the center, a framed photo of Brigadier Cedric Wainwright in full dress uniform, beside a small plaque that read, "A father who found his son. A soldier who finally came home." I walked through the main room. 2 counseling sessions were running. A support group was meeting in the back room. Laughter came from the kitchen where volunteers were preparing lunch. Real laughter, the kind that happens when people stop pretending they are fine and start being honest. Sarah, the foundation director, stopped me in the hall. "Morning, Murray. 3 new families starting this week. That is good, I said. Really good. She smiled. You should be proud. I looked around the room. The Brigadier built this. I am just the bloke carrying it forward. Joel brought his girlfriend to lunch last month. First time he had introduced me to anyone. She was kind. Laughed easily. Called me Mr. Telford until I told her to call me Murray. When they left, Joel shook my hand. Then he paused. I am starting to forgive you, Dad, he said. Just thought you should know. I could not speak. Just nodded. He squeezed my hand and walked away. 3 years after the Brigadier died, I visited his grave on the anniversary. Brought native flowers. Sat on the grass. Talked to him the way I talked to him every year. I told him about the trust. About the families we had helped, more than 140 now. About Kylie's wedding. About Joel's girlfriend. About Ethan driving down from Bendigo every few months. About the support groups. About Dr. Singh. About learning, at 66 years old, that it is not too late to become a different man. You gave me a second chance, I said quietly. And I am not wasting it. I placed the flowers on his grave. Touched the headstone. I love you, Dad. Thank you. For everything. I stood up. Brushed the grass from my trousers. Walked back to my car. My phone buzzed. A text from Kylie. Dinner Sunday. Bring dessert. A message from Joel. Foundation fundraiser next month. Can I help? A missed call from Ethan. No voicemail. But he had called. That was enough. I drove home as the sun set over the bay. My flat was still small. Still simple. But it was not empty anymore. There were photos on the walls now. Kylie's wedding. Joel at the pub. Ethan at the foundation. And in the center, a framed photograph of the Brigadier, my father, with that look in his eyes that I finally understood. It was love. It had always been love. I made dinner. Sat at the table. The silence was not heavy anymore. It was just quiet. The quiet of a man who had finally found his way. I pulled out the Brigadier's letter. Read it one last time. His words still hit me the way they did the first time. You are not alone. You never were. I folded the letter carefully. Put it back in its envelope. Placed it in the drawer beside the Distinguished Service Cross. Closed the drawer. Then I walked to the window. The lights of Geelong stretched out below me. Corio Bay was dark and still. Somewhere out there, families were fighting and forgiving and falling apart and coming back together. The same way they always have. The same way they always will. I thought about the Brigadier. About how one moment of kindness, one decision to help a confused old man in a supermarket, had changed everything. He had not given me money. He had given me something money cannot buy. He had given me the truth about where I came from, and the courage to face where I was going. I am 66 years old. I have spent most of my life believing that strength meant standing alone. That needing people was weakness. That showing emotion was failure. The army taught me that. My pride reinforced it. And I spent decades paying the price. But I know better now. Strength is not about walls. It is about doors. Opening them. Walking through them. Letting people see who you really are, not the uniform, not the rank, not the hardened exterior. Just the man underneath. If you are watching this and you have a father or a mother you have not spoken to in years, pick up the phone. Not tomorrow. Today. You do not have to forgive them. You do not have to forget. You just have to try. Because one day they will be gone, and the words you did not say will weigh more than anything you ever carried. And if you are watching this and you are the parent who pushed your children away, hear me. It is not too late. It is never too late. Not to fix everything, not to erase the past, but to start. One phone call. One letter. One honest conversation where you say the thing you have been too proud or too afraid to say. I am sorry. I love you. I am here. That is what the Brigadier taught me. That is what I am trying to teach others. And that is why I am telling you this story tonight. The Brigadier gave me a second chance. I am giving it forward. And wherever he is, I believe he is watching. And I believe he is proud. I closed my eyes that night, and for the first time in 66 years, I slept without dreaming of the things I had lost. I dreamed instead of the things I had found. And that, more than any medal or any amount of money, was the greatest gift anyone had ever given me.